Hello, welcome to this video in which we'll be looking at the second activity for the seminar, which is around related samples ANOVA. So this is the data which the output in your activity in your practice portfolio part B was produced. So this data relates to section 5 of the practice portfolio, and we have some information about a fictional study in which we want to explore whether listening to different types of music, classical or rock, or sitting in silence affects levels of optimism. So we're not sure what effects there might be, but we think it will have some effect on optimism. You can see that 17 adults have taken part, that counterbalancing was used, so people completed the different conditions in different orders so that we didn't get boredom or practice effects. And then we have a measure of optimism after each condition. And this is the output from a repeated measures ANOVA or related samples ANOVA that's being produced to test that hypothesis. So the first thing we need to do is consider whether we have the right type of data for running a related samples ANOVA. So we need one IV and one DV. So we know that our IV is condition related to musical silence, and that we have 3 levels for that. So we have a silence condition, a rock condition, or a classical music condition, and that each person has taken part in each of those conditions. And we have a continuous dependent variable, which is score on a measure of optimism, and so that's what those numbers are. So on the face of it, that looks appropriate for a related samples ANOVA. But we also need to check the data is suitable based on its distribution. So there are different ways of doing this, but one method is to look at how for each of these columns of data, the data is distributed. So we would go to Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, and Explore, and we would transfer over all of these variables into the dependent list. We can keep some of the default options as they are, but we need to go into Plots, Request Histogram, and Normality Plots with Tests, and then we would click Continue and OK. What we have here is we can see that we have data for 17 participants for all 3 conditions, which is good. And we would look at whether the mean, the trimmed mean, and the median are similar to each other, because that would indicate the more similar they are, the more likely you are to have a roughly normal distribution. We'll look at skew and kurtosis values to see if they look within acceptable bounds, -1 to +1. And we'll look at the results of our tests of normality. Now, because we have fewer than 50 participants, the best test to use is the Shapiro-Wilk. And we can see that each of these p-values is greater than 0.05, suggesting that our distribution is not significantly different from a normal distribution. And if we have a look at the histograms, you can see that they aren't perfectly normal. There's perhaps nothing too concerning. Now, histograms are harder to interpret when you have fewer observations, so that's why it's harder to see. We should also look at our box plots. I'll just look at this one for now to see if there are any extreme values, which would be a problem for running an ANOVA. So that's a very short overview of the assumption checking. The data is available under this video if you want to do the data assumption checking yourself and to do it more thoroughly. But for now, I'll stop here and I will run the actual ANOVA itself. So I need to go to Analyze, and this time I need to go to General Linear Model and Repeated Measures. Now it asks me what my within subject factor name is, and that's the independent variable that we're looking at. So in this case, we'll put it as music condition. I don't think you can have any spaces between those words. And we need to say how many levels there are, so we know we have a silent condition, a rock music condition, and a classical music condition. So those are three levels, so we need to put that there, and we need to add. And now an option to define what we mean by music condition with 3 levels appears. So we click on Define, And SPSS is asking us, well, which of our variables in our dataset represent the 3 levels of our within subjects variable, which is music condition. So we'll put the silent condition first, we'll put the rock music condition second, and we'll put the classical music condition third. If these were time points, then the order may be more obvious, so you might have pre, mid and post intervention or so on, but it would be the same principles. We need to go to options. We need to select music condition and transfer that into the display means for, and we need to click on compare main effects. Now there are different ways of doing this, but we will request the Bonferroni approach. For further information on running post hoc testing or pairwise comparisons, remember you always have your walkthrough. So in your walkthrough here, all you need to do is go into the related samples section here, and there's information about post hoc testing in there. So back to our data, we'll also ask for some descriptive statistics to be produced, and then we can click continue, and we'll click OK. And this is the output that has been produced as part of your practice portfolio B. Thank you.